Welcome to This Week in Family Law, the go-to podcast for busy Australian family lawyers who want to stay updated without the overwhelm. My name is Jenna Downey and my co-host today is Antonia Cacapato. How are you doing, Antonia?
I'm good, Jenna. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have a good Easter long weekend?
I did. The 4 days were so relaxing. I spent a lot of time with family and I got to do some sewing, so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. How was yours?
Nice. It was nice. We went away for a few days, which was very relaxing, and to spend some time away from the house with the kids.
School holidays now, isn't it?
Yes.
Term 1 went so quick.
So quick, too quick. I always remember when growing up, my parents would often say the school terms they go too quick, and I now fully understand that.
Yeah.
Now let's get into this week's episode. What's up, Antonia?
With it being a short week, we don't have too many updates today. However, I did see an article online that Sydney lawyer Keith Redenbach was ordered by the New South Wales Supreme Court to repay approximately $2.25 million to Broken Hill City Council after overcharging for legal work. And reading the article was pretty crazy. He billed impossible hours, including a 36-hour work day and 103 hours over 3 days. Multiple instances where he charged more than 24 hours in a single day. So Justice Elizabeth Peden ruled the council was entitled to recover $1.5 million from him personally and over $750,000 from his firms.
Wow. For that amount of money to accrue, I'm thinking he must have been overcharging for quite a significant period of time.
Significant period of time. And then also he was increasing his hourly rate without giving them the proper notice.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No. How about you, Jenna? Do you have any updates?
I do. The update I have is from the Law Institute of Victoria, which is an article based on their podcast, Cross-Examination. And it's on the topic of junior lawyers urged to stand out with strong AI skills. And it goes on to say that junior lawyers are increasingly encouraged to develop strong AI skills to stand out in the current profession. The article highlights that AI capability is becoming essential, and as we've spoken about for quite some time, it's not going anywhere. So I think these thoughts are definitely valid in terms of firms thinking about how their junior lawyers and also senior lawyers should implement AI into their practice. And junior lawyers... It's suggested that junior lawyers would stand out as being technically proficient, but then also having those core human skills like critical thinking, good communication, commercial awareness and strategic judgment. We know that young lawyers are more digitally native than their senior counterparts.
Yeah, definitely.
Which would give them an advantage to some extent, but they also need to learn how to use AI effectively and transparently and not as a shortcut necessarily with a lot of the tasks that they do. And senior lawyers still play an important role in supervision, in supervising AI use of junior lawyers.
Yeah, of course.
And also using the output that AI provides to help train and help lawyers learn from the work that they're doing too, which is an interesting perspective to think about because the profession is definitely shifting.
Yeah, it's great to see this shift.
Yeah, and there's a lot of experimentation with AI, but it's just a matter of working out what those key skills are and important things that lawyers need to do to be able to implement this effectively.
Yeah, use it with
firms.
caution and start practicing because we're going to need to implement it in our day-to-day life as it is not going anywhere. Yeah.
Thank you, Antonia.
Yeah. Thanks, Jenna.
And that's what's up for this week. For this week on Case Note Corner, Antonia is bringing back the pop culture theme and will share her insights on Kim Kardashian and Kanye West's parenting matter. Thank you, Antonia.
Thanks, Jenna. So I thought we could break down a bit of the separation between Kim and Kanye. Although he's formally changed his name to Ye, I think that's ridiculous and we'll be referring to him as Kanye, and mainly focusing on his mental health and how that's affected the parenting matters. As we know, mental health is a common issue we see in parenting matters in Australia as well. And Kim and Kanye have been in the public eye for many years and we've seen him, slowly go off the rails in the past 10 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask how long have they been together for? I feel like it has been.
Well, they started dating in 2011, married 2014,
Yeah.
and then they separated in 2021.
Okay.
So 10 years they were together.
Okay.
They had 4 children. So we've got North, who's now 12, Saint, who's 10, Chicago, who's 8, and Psalm, who's 6. Yeah, so in early 2021, Kim filed for divorce, and a main issue for them was his mental health declining, and he was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. So in 2022, late 2022, they settled their parenting matters by consent, and they reached an agreement where they would have joint legal and physical custody of the children. However, Kim has been the primary carer since then because Kanye has just been showing some more erratic behaviour. So let's go into what kind of outbursts he was having in the media. I'm sure you'll remember some of these. So in 2016, he was on his St. Pablo World Tour where he was having these erratic outbursts at his concerts where he was accusing radio and industry figures of manipulation and control. He expressed frustration about artists being restricted creatively. In 2018, he was making some controversial public statements and aligning with Trump, although that's not a mental health disorder. There's concerning behaviours that he was showing. And another thing that I want to mention, back in 2016, during that tour, he was hospitalised for exhaustion and sleep deprivation as well. So there were just some alarm bells going on with him, and it's widely understood that that involved some mental health concerns then. So it lines up a bit with when he was formally diagnosed with bipolar.
And as someone who doesn't necessarily follow pop culture in that much depth, I do remember seeing some of those things on the news and hearing about certain things on social media as well.
Yeah. And do you remember in 2020 when he stated he was going to run for president?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was another one. And then he was also posting some personal parts of his relationship with Kim online, some private messages he would post on Instagram, then delete them.
I also remember that.
Yeah. So it was widely reported on. And then between 2022 and 2025, things escalated where he engaged in a series of anti-Semitic tirades. So he was tweeting about going on DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, praising Hitler, identifying as a Nazi, and then he wore some white supremacist imagery at Paris Fashion Week. So from that, he then lost his brand deals with Adidas, Gap and Balenciaga. They all severed ties with him, and he lost about $1.5 billion in endorsements. So these all had consequences, and he was really going off the rails there. During the separation as well, Kim started dating comedian Pete Davidson. Hilarious. You should watch some of his stand-up if you guys haven't. And then Kanye released a music video depicting some violence against an animated version of Pete. So we're seeing some family violence factors in that as well. So then from there, we've now seen this year he's taken out a full ad in the Wall Street Journal apologising, saying he's now getting therapy, he's on his medication, and he apologises for any hurt he's caused to Kim, his family, the Jewish community. However, we need to see that continue so from all those outbursts, he's now not had any involvement with his children. Kim's become the primary carer, and she's trying to really safeguard these children from seeing this erratic behaviour or being involved in any of his outbursts.
And this behaviour, no doubt there was some during the relationship, but then post-separation, they separated in 2021. He made an apology, you said earlier this year. So that's 5 years of having to deal with the behaviour and his behaviour escalating in different ways.
It would be so concerning. So from there, let's look at what the US legal framework would be like. So they settled this by consent. However, if it was to go through the US legal courts, very similar to Australia, they look at a functional approach and they consider whether the condition actually impairs their ability to parent safely and consistently. So like Australia, we look at the best interest of the child being the paramount consideration. They also look at that. They focus on the parenting capacity, whether they have the ability to provide stable care for the children, safety and risk, and if symptoms create any risk, the court is likely to attach substantial weight to that issue. And like in Australia, we'd see some sort of safeguards around that, whether it be supervision or limited daytime only, no overnights, that kind of approach. They'd look at whether there's stability and predictability, treatment compliance, are they engaging with their therapy, medication, and do they have insight into their condition? So although Kanye is saying he does now, there'd need to be some pattern to show that is actually in place. And then they'd look at the impact of the child, if it affects their child's emotional, psychological and developmental well-being. Yeah. It's interesting to see as well in the US how it's all state to state legislation. Some states do actually look at mental health as a statutory factor when considering what the best interest of the child is. So we've got that in Pennsylvania and Florida. However, in California, where they were dealing with their parenting matters, it's just emphasised as part of the child's health and safety and welfare, but not a specific factor. So the governing legislation in California is the California Family Code. And again, it focuses on the health and safety and welfare, any history of abuse or substance abuse, and then the nature and amount of contact with both parents. So from there, as I discussed, they look at whether, overnight time was suitable, whether it should be supervised, and then the key principle is that restrictions must be protective, not punitive.
Yeah. Going back from when they separated, so did he have any time with them initially, or it's always been?
He did, and then it slowly stopped in about 2023. Okay. Yeah. So he's made some outbursts about Kim keeping the children from him.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that's around the time that happened. And then it's obviously been quite a few years since then, and you have North, their eldest child, who you mentioned is now 12 years old. So very much expressing a view as well as to what she would want to
Exactly.
happen.
And I think Kim, from what I've seen as well, Kim wants them to have a relationship and she's happy for them to spend time, but she wants to try to keep those safeguards in place.
Yes.
And so I think it's not the 50-50 that they agreed to. He's probably spending some time, like daytime.
Sure. Yeah.
But not overnights, or he's not caring for them for long periods, especially Salm, who's 6.
Yeah.
Still so young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when we look at it from the Australian lens, as we know, we've got the Family Law Act and we've got Section 60CA, which sets out that the children's best interests are paramount. And then we've got Section 60CC, which then lists the factors for what we can consider. And since the 2024 amendments that have come into place, the children's safety is at the front and centre of those factors. So that anchors what we look at when we're considering parenting matters. We also look at parental responsibility. So if a party has mental health issues, that doesn't mean that they're an unfit parent. I'm sure you've seen so many cases as well where a parent is struggling with their mental health, but they can cater for their children and look after them. But if you've got the unstable parent, it might be that parental responsibility is assigned to one party so that they don't have to have any issues in trying to, get the kids into schools or deal with their health.
It's a good point, isn't it? I know that I had quite a few clients come to me and they might have been speaking to a psychologist or a therapist of some sort because they were dealing with mental health issues, which can be very normal.
Very normal.
In society generally, but also around that time of separation. And they would almost see it as a weakness that they are seeking help for it because they're concerned about how it would look, the fact that
optics.
Actually getting treatment from a psychologist. But in fact, that is so healthy for them to do.
Definitely.
That it's not a weakness at all. That is a superpower that you are getting
to have the insight,
help that you need.
Yeah, to know that, hey, I'm struggling. I need to parent better for my child, and I need to go on a mental health plan. I need to get some therapy. That's what they're there for.
Exactly.
If you broke your leg, you'd go to the doctor. You know, it's the same kind of thing.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's definitely not saying mental health concerns are bad. It's saying that they need to be managed and considered when looking at the whole parenting arrangement.
Yeah, and seeking treatment is okay. And as you were saying before as well, complying with treatment is also important when it is in place.
Yeah, I had a matter where the mother had significant bipolar issues and she was hospitalised quite a lot. However, she was the primary carer for the child, but she lived with her mother, and there were safeguards in the parenting orders that if she was to be hospitalised, the father would be contacted, she'd be on her medication. And she was such a great mother, but she just had these struggles, and it happens. But, putting some stability in place for the child, that's the main concern.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Jenna, taking into consideration everything we've discussed, how do you think it would have played out in Australia if they had these orders in place for 50-50 care? However, no one's followed it for the past 3 or so years.
If I think of it from a very practical perspective, if they've had these orders in place technically for 5 years, no one's followed them for the past 3 years, and Kanye now wants to spend time with the children. Kim has said that she wants him to spend time with the children, so it sounds like she would very much facilitate the relationship, that perhaps they could try to speak to each other about, well, what might be suitable for the children, and he could be very accommodating of that given the period of time since he hasn't seen them. So if I think of it from a very practical perspective, I would hope that perhaps they could reinstate some of that time by him having shorter periods with the children,
showing
just
that
as agreed currently.
Yeah.
Given there's orders in place, neither of them have been following them for
3 years.
For 3 years.
Yeah. And just him showing that he is, still getting that treatment.
Yes.
And sticking to his medication as well, just to make sure. Yeah. Well, I think I like that take, but I also think if I was Kim back when Kanye was having these outbursts, I would have been trying to vary the orders to say, although there's 50-50 joint, physical and legal custody, using the American terminology, it's not safe to do so. And she should have been asking for sole PR and reducing that time to, maybe supervised, get a report done for him and get him some help. Yeah.
And I wonder why she didn't do that initially. Do you think because they do have somewhat of a understanding, a working relationship that...
I don't know, because he was so erratic.
Yeah.
I think it's probably she didn't want to be in court and put the children through that. Yeah. I honestly don't know, because that is a really good question. Yeah. And then trying to take it from the other point, if there weren't any orders in place and she was coming fresh to the Australian courts, how do you think that would have played out, say, before he's now on the medication and doing therapy, if they came to court while he was having this erratic behaviour? Because we see so many cases where people are having these outbursts online or mental health episodes. How do you think it would have played out in Australia?
It certainly would have been taken into account within the court proceedings, and what Kim would have been wanting to show was the impact that behaviour would have had on the children, and that they weren't necessarily safe within his care.
Yeah.
From her perspective, that's what she would have done. He probably would have tried to suggest that he was seeking treatment.
Yeah.
These were obviously so public, so there was no hiding the behaviour. But the fact that he was seeking treatment, get some reports from his treating doctors to suggest that he is a capable parent and try to get time that way, whether that be supervised time or no overnights, as you were
Yeah.
saying before, or whether he would
Yeah.
have just got general
I
time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we could have seen Kim Kardashian in the Everett list if
Yeah.
she commenced court proceedings, because we would have had her, completing her notice of risk, detailing, that's our mandatory document to say when there has been, abuse or mental health concerns. You list out all the authorities that have been in touch, and then we've also got the affidavits with all the evidence. But when you're filing the your court documents, you then go through the Lighthouse program where you do the risk assessment, and then from there it gets triaged, and then it'll be through the Everett list, as you know. So I think that she definitely could have ended up in that with a more scrutinised case management from the courts to make sure that the evidence was getting collected, the expert reports, supervised time, and just, keeping on top of his mental health before the children were exposed to, greater periods of time.
Yeah, and to appropriately deal with this type of case.
Yeah, keep them out of unacceptable harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Antonia. That was very interesting. I'm sure our listeners would have enjoyed the discussion of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian.
Thanks,
and
Jenna.
also relating that US law to what it is in Australia as well.
Yeah, it's nice to see it's very similar.
I think back at your episode that you did on Kelly Clarkson and talking about the property proceedings and spousal maintenance, whereas that was so different between how they deal with those type of issues within the States and then Australia. But parenting, they do seem to have similar principles to what we do.
I know, it's very, very interesting.
Thank you, Antonia. We've loved being in your ears this week. Please like, subscribe and share this episode to get it in front of more people. If you have any questions that you want to be answered or any feedback, please email us or reach out to us on YouTube, TikTok or Instagram. Stay tuned for next week's episode. New episode drops every Monday.